Welcome back to Scrollies. We have found ourselves here in this dark abyss, this void, where time is as if it's all folded in on itself. I see everything. Everything past, present, all the Scrollies guests we've ever had and ever will have. Whoa. No way, we're gonna get them someday? That's crazy.
That's kind of neat. I mean, the green hills go on forever, Sqat. This is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I see, like, it looks like natural loops. I didn't know that rock formations made themselves out in that way, but I feel like if I got my momentum up enough, I could clear a full circle around it.
Though I suppose there's a lot less Jim Carrey than I thought there was going to be, Sqat.
Well, I think he's a little too animated for real life.
Ah, yeah, that's true. This is real life. This isn't a cartoon.
Yeah, in fact, I think we're the only people here. Oh, wait, what's that? Look at that running towards us right now. Is that... It's Plaidman. Plaidman86.
No way!
What are you doing here?
The one and only.
The one and only. Oh my goodness, it's an honor to meet you. You're here. This is where you've been. I feel like I haven't seen you in a while, man.
I don't understand. Plaid, why are you in the Sega voice? Oh, it must be because you've played so much Doom that you've stopped paying tribute to Sonic. That must be why you're here as well.
You got sucked in?
Well, I did, and let me say for the record that 30 streams of Sonic, it will be completed someday.
You also violated the terms of service, eh?
I think so. I think at this rate, it'll turn to 31 games of Sonic at the rate I'm going.
The 1 year anniversary of the 1 month Sonic Marathon.
Yes.
Not only the first guest to ever be back, but also the first guest to be introduced first. This is kind of weird.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there my co-host? He's here as well.
Well, you didn't even vote yourself. I mean, I'm just here. For some reason, I'm compelled to call you Squatic the Hedgehog.
Squatic the Hedgehog. Oh, yes.
Squatic the Hedgehog.
And I am Dr. Ratnatic. I mean, everyone sounds really mad, but it's the only thing that works conceptually. I know what it's supposed to be. Hint, hint.
No doubt. It seems like we're all just a zany cast of anthropomorphized podcasters right now. Plaid, good to have you back.
The DeviantArts are incoming.
Yeah, submit your OCs to scrolliespodcast@gmail.com.
It's my OC, don't steal it!
Yeah, if someone will draw Ratnato the Hedgehog, please.
Dude, I bet you could, Google that, and it already exists. Because,
that's the meme.
That's how vast, the Sonic, OC DeviantArt universe is. I mean...
Only mine comes up. Oops.
It seems like someone beat you to the punch there. Well, I guess we all know why we're here. We've all neglected Sega, so I guess it's time to make up for that. It's time to acknowledge the fact that Sega has a varied history with this character, and what better time than today when a new Sonic game is coming out, Sonic Frontiers. Mm-hmm. Is it good? Is it bad? Based on what we're going to talk about, I'd say it's 50-50.
Yeah.
I'd say that's a good prediction.
Look, a lot of people say that Sonic games aren't always good, but if you just look at the sheer number of them, a lot of them are really good. Maybe more than a lot of other franchises. Do they outweigh the bad ones? Maybe I'll let you guys lead on this.
could be a bit of a quantity over quality situation.
I agree. The fact that they can keep pumping out games, I think that says something, that Sonic is still alive, very much alive and well. I mean, yes, how many of those games can you count on your hands are actually, good, that are recent?
That's true. But also, think about this, though, Plaid. How many of those Sonic games are on IGN's Top 100 video games of all time?
Oh, so triggered. That list, if they would have put Zelda Breath of the Wild at number 1, fine, but come on, you gotta put a Sonic game on that list. I mean, that was, for a while, that was Mario's number 1 contender.
Once upon a time, yes. I do remember that.
Mm-hmm. Once upon a time. Well, let's talk a little bit about that, Plaid. Let's please, by all means, when and how did you get into the Sonic series?
Oh, goodness, I'm probably going to show my age. So, the very first video game I ever played was Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt. I say that because it was the 2-for-1 combo cartridge for the NES. And I think I must have been 6, 7 years old. And of course, being a little kid playing a console game, of course, it was a big thing. A TV screen, you're controlling these little amounts of pixels, and there's action. And it was cool. Duck Hunt was fun, too. I mean, Nintendo was quite innovative with their little peripherals. The zapper, the light gun. I think
they're like cute little peripherals, whatever. They're like not a
Yes.
big deal.
Yeah, I think Nintendo's had many a peripherals. And
Yeah.
I think that was pretty unique for Nintendo. And then one of my neighbors had a Sega Genesis. And,
Oh, no.
And they had Sonic the Hedgehog 1991. And now, of course, I mean, Sonic probably inspired an entire generation of ADD, because Sonic was all about going fast. Really fast. I mean, the hills, the loop-de-loops, the rings, so many things you gotta collect. The invincibility, when you hit that box and you start jamming out to the invincibility theme. I mean, now, of course, Sonic was double, better than Mario, because you go from 8 to 16, so of course Sonic's gonna look and perform better than Mario. Plus, Sonic doesn't get wrecked by turtles. That was always my defending argument about why Sonic was better. Well, Sonic doesn't get killed by a turtle.
Too easy.
He just roll right through them.
Exactly. It's like Sonic's enemies were robots. I mean, robots.
And so for Sqat Cobbler right now, man, he's furious because Mario beat DK, and if Sonic beats Mario, what does that mean about his franchise?
I take issue with the fact that Mario beat DK. Mario was the icon, the mascot. You had to slap his face on everything just to get it to sell. DK sold itself. DK was revolutionary, as we know. Donkey Kong Country, same computers that made Jurassic Park. But I'd say, in a way, DK, in response to the console war of the time and trying to push graphics to their absolute max, and Sonic was very much on the leading edge of the competitor side of things, Sega, that caused that to happen.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's pretty crazy. I'm mostly joking with Sqat because I have a theory. I've talked about this with Plaidman, I believe. Maybe Sqat Cobbler was there. That if you were either a Nintendo kid and you were a Sega kid, and the Sega kids were a different brand. They were they were kind of thought that for an elementary school kid, they were a little bit cooler
Early
than the
chads.
Mario kids. But in hindsight, it's no, they just really liked Kool-Aid, and they'd have fruit punch rings around their face, and they loved running. That to me, that's the quintessential Sega kid. But as a kid, my best friend, he loved it. One of my best friends when I was a kid, and we'd go to his house and we'd play Sonic. We'd drink Yoo-Hoo, and he was a Sega kid and I was a Nintendo kid. And somehow, some way, we managed to form a bond.
Yeah. With those diplomatic relations, it's a wonder that the world even is the way it is right now. If even you two could bridge that divide, Nintendo and Sega,
anything can happen.
Anything can happen. That's the answer to world peace. We have to try and emulate that in our modern day and age.
I mean, it wasn't easy. It always came down to that. Hey, it wasn't quite the exact same talking points. He talked about blast processing, and blast processing, I think, really was the biggest thing, wasn't it, Sqat?
I think it really even wasn't a thing. It was just something that if you look up the advertising history of Sega, I mean, they really pulled every trick in the book to make their products sound better than what Nintendo had. For the longest time, I believed that the Sega Genesis was vastly superior to the Super Nintendo, only because the Genesis had Sonic. And that was it. And years later, I realized that the Super Nintendo was actually more powerful graphically than the Genesis. I think the Genesis had maybe better processing, better speed, hence that's where they came up with blast processing. I think that's where that came from, because I think when you play the Sonic games, it's very noticeable how it just renders so quickly when you're moving so fast. So that was where they kind of got that from, but in terms of sound, number of colors, the Super Nintendo just outperformed the Genesis.
Yeah,
but have you seen all that slowdown on those SNES games? Ugh, man, it's like walking through soup. Who cares about colors, music, mode 7?
Perfectly suited for Mario.
Give me that speed.
Mario doesn't need blast processing. He doesn't move fast.
And what's really crazy too is I think that eventually, like, I mean, we'll probably talk about it, but down the road, I think like the Sega kids morphed into something new, and it's interesting to see where we all ended up, because even I know the era that Plaid is talking about, and I remember, like, for me in a small
I'm a
Utah
veteran
town,
of the Bit War era.
Exactly. And I wasn't like, I was still a kid, but I remember, we were so far behind that, an NES with Duck Hunt and whatever, that was still like, a thing in like the 90s. People were still doing that, and that was still the new thing. So I was there for a lot of that too, only for it to just like, what Sonic became completely different from what I said, like the Kool-Aid ring kid, that and now what's kind of even like, hey, let me invoke his name, a Dubatine, I believe now is kind of like the quintessential Sonic fan. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, and that's in a in a very certain kind of way. Some awakenings happened to the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. I feel like we've really set the scene. We really set the stage. The height of the Bit Wars is when Plaidman was introduced to this character. But Ratnado, I don't even know if I know yourself. Your familiarity with the series, what games you've played.
Same.
When did you first encounter one Sonic the Hedgehog in the form of a game and not just cultural phenomena?
Kind of weird. I was like really into books. There were Sonic, like, not like, novels, but like flip books, picture books, comics,
I gotta talk about the
all
comics.
that kind of stuff. Yeah, we'll talk about that. That's kind of where I started.
Yeah, Ratnado, please continue. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of weird that, like, I mean, I like Sonic as a character, and I remember I think there was like even like some Sonic X crossover with like the whole, like, I don't remember, but they were like freedom fighters, and you had like the bunny, half robot
Bunny
chick.
Rabbot.
And I ate those up. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, bunny girl.
Well, I loved those comics. Sonic legit taught me how to read, because I was reading the comics when I was in first grade, and some of like my favorite issues were like the adaptations, like the actual games. I think my favorite Sonic comic was number 25, where it was based on Sonic CD, and like the race between Metal Sonic. Oh man. I think
that's hype.
Yeah, I had like over like 200 of those comics. They're so good. And
where are they now, Plaid? Where are they now?
I sold them.
No!
I know.
eBay listing from long ago.
Yes.
And I feel like there's a crossover for that with Sega kids and like the sell everything kids. Because you probably were like, hey, we gotta sell everything. We gotta get the new thing.
Well, when a new piece of hardware is coming out every couple of years, you have to. You gotta get those funds somehow.
Well, I feel like, speaking of funds, like selling, like with every new generation of consoles, like with me and my older sister, we didn't. At least I didn't think we were like really rich enough. I mean, our parents never bought us like consoles for us, because we had the type of parents that believe that video games are evil, video games are a waste of time. So my sister and I, we bought our own video games on our own consoles. So we only had one of every generation, as in like we had this generation. If we want the next, we traded our previous console and games in to obtain the next generation. Just because when we were kids, we didn't have disposable incomes. So I have that now.
I got really lucky that I had older siblings, that had jobs, and 100% that's what they did. Like when we were young, I think we had like a Super Nintendo before they were working. But after Nintendo 64, it's like they always had jobs, and they'd be like, yeah, we can drop some money on something new. So I had a different experience to that, and now I look at that. People like that. I'm like, how could you do that? I still have my Game Boy. I still have my Nintendo 64. I still have all these things that I got, when I was a kid, or that we got, I guess, too. I think of the Nomad Plaid.
We had one. I don't know. Maybe it was just a thing of I don't know, like my generation. Like maybe it was because we're just so focused like on the next generation of consoles, like, or even just like, I want to say victim, or like a product of like marketing. It's like you don't want what's old, you want what's new. And but the novelty of being able to trade in like your console and your games, like to Funko Land, Electronics Boutique, but I'm pretty sure now it's just GameStop, which is the law of the land now in terms of like video game retail. But the novelty of being able to trade those in for money that can go toward next generation, that was like the prime idea like in the late 90s, early 2000s, but I feel like that's really fallen out of fashion just because like say like GameStop will give you pennies for whatever you want to trade in. I mean, that's a well-known meme in itself.
I feel like it still exists in a way. I mean, in terms of trading in to get the new hardware, but also with backwards compatibility, a lot of games you can just play on the new system.
Yep.
Digital purchases, it's just moving your whole library over. So it's not really as tied to specific hardware as it used to be. And I feel like because of that, people are more willing to give up their older systems to get the new hot commodity. I've never been one to do that. I hang on like a hoarder to all my old consoles, and I'm glad I do now because I'm able to go back and play on the same console that I played on as a kid, and for the most part, it still works. It's a little funky. You might have to blow in the cartridge if you think it's a power on, but
Sqat, what about you? I guess we've never really directly or like had deep discussions about Sonic before. I know Plaidman's whole history with Sonic. I hope at some point we talk about his.
We even know about the
his
plushie.
little his. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's exactly where I was going. I hope he brings
it.
up the plushie story. But really quick first, I got to know about Sqat's history with. What do they call him? What is Sonic's nickname? It's not the Blue Bomber because that's Mega Man.
The Blue Blur.
Yeah.
He's just the Blue Blur.
Yeah.
So
kind of biting off Mega Man there, Sega.
Oh.
Hey, colors aren't trademarked.
Oh god, Sega, the logo's blue, Sonic is blue, Mega Man is blue. Why? But blue's not really. When I think of Nintendo, I don't think of the color blue.
So
that's true.
Allow me to take you beyond the Bit Wars, beyond the 90s even, to a different age, post Sega console. In fact,
the 2000s?
The 2000s, Plaid. I mean, you know what my first Sonic game was, and I'll get to that in a second. But
yeah.
But setting the stage a little bit, how could I not have known a Sonic? He was one of the gaming mascots, the huge icons of the industry. However, I had an N64 during the time the GameCube was out. There were no Sonic games on that. I obviously knew people that had the Adventure collection on their GameCubes, on their Dreamcasts, whatever. Shadow the Hedgehog, spin-offs of that, Sonic Heroes. But I myself never even had a console that was capable of playing a Sonic game until the Wii. I didn't even know about the Bit Wars until well into the 2000s. It was ancient history. It wasn't relevant. It was just, hey, there are console wars. Sure, whatever. Nintendo won in the sense that they're the only ones still making hardware.
All right, what about Sony? Although you can say Sony was like a late entry into that war, because pretty much. Sqat, it was even it was like predominantly Sega, Nintendo, and
oh yeah,
Nintendo definitely won that fight.
Yeah. I the earliest console war I would know of is the N64, PS1 / GameCube, PS2. Yeah. Even the Xbox was kind of an early entry into I guess what became the modern day. Sorry, Plaid, never heard of one.
Oh, no.
Well, exactly. I got a side story for that, but please continue.
Anyway, so I knew of Sonic. I didn't know of this rivalry. I just knew that he was the edgy, cool equivalent of Mario. I thought Shadow the Hedgehog in concept was the coolest thing ever to a preteen Sqat.
Where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald?
Yeah, shut up, curses. Do you know any Nintendo characters that curse? No. Well, come to Sega. We got cursing.
All that being said, I didn't have access to a game until my Wii, and I was a sucker, a bright-eyed child who saw the motion control marketing, thought, this is the future. Yep. I move my body to move the game. This is how it's going to be from now on. And
so innovative.
In some ways, yes. In most ways, no. But
it was a nice time.
Oh yeah. It was a simpler time. We didn't know what was to come.
Yeah, but everyone else tried to copy it. Xbox with the Kinect, and then Sony with the Move,
and Sega with one of the Wii's launch titles, Sonic and the Secret Rings, my first Sonic game.
Oh, you poor child.
To set the stage, because I don't know if this is a popular one or not. It's definitely not main series, so I feel like it's kind of a spin-off in that sense. But this is a Sonic story that takes place entirely in the world of the Arabian Nights. And in lieu of traditional analog stick and button controls, I mean, you have the buttons, obviously, but to control Sonic's movement, it's all based on the Wii Remote gyro. You turn it left and right to steer, you pull it back to slow down, you push it forward to speed up. And that's Sonic and the Secret Rings. I thoroughly enjoyed it when I got my Wii. I haven't gone back to it in a long time, and I recognize now, probably for the best I don't.
Although, now, did that game come out about roughly the same time as Sonic 06?
That's where I was going to go next, Plaid. So,
so it's kind of like, Nintendo, they got Secret Rings. It's like, well, fine, you guys can have that. What does 360 and PS3 get? Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, and...
It's no use!
It's no use! I've never played Secret Rings, but I'd like to think that Secret Rings was better than 06.
I'm sure it was less buggy.
Yeah.
But, you know what, we'll just steer away from 06 for a second.
Yes.
Like you said, at this time, a new age of Sonic games was beginning, and my familiarity with Sonic primarily lies between the years 2006 and 2011. To me, this is the golden age of Sonic. And I know what you're thinking.
Oh my god, Sqat.
Doesn't that include Sonic 06? Yes, it does. Is that a good game? Absolutely not. However, I think you'd agree it started a new chapter in the Sonic franchise to where we weren't going back to the days of old. We weren't going back to the classic style, at least not until Sonic Mania, way later. The Adventure series brought into 3D, but even that was kind of done in a different style than 06 and onward. So my next Sonic game after that was Sonic Unleashed, and then Sonic Colors. Notice these are all games that also came out on the Wii. And
of course, that's following the Sqat Cobbler rule of only play the Nintendo version of a game.
Precisely. And I will say, having played both versions of Unleashed now, the Wii/PS2 version is better. I'm looking at you, Sun and Moon medals. But I'd really say this mini era, this subgroup of Sonic games ended with Sonic Generations in 2011. That was kind of the bridge between the old and the new at that point, in terms of the classic side-scrolling gameplay and in terms of the gotta go fast as possible 3D levels.
So this does really surprise me. That, I mean, just to hear that is such a thing, because to me, Sonic has kind of just been in the background since the 90s. Like, I don't know if you understand the cultural phenomenon that Sonic was in the 90s.
You got a Macy's Day Parade balloon.
Yes, you know about it!
If you can say that, though, really, though, like, I'm like, wow, that's surprising to me.
Yeah.
Sqat,
you did me proud.
I had to win Plaid back over somehow after what I just said. Now, obviously, I was aware of the classic games. I knew of the 2D side scrollies. In fact, I even played Sonic 2 on my very first flip phone, and it ran at the speed of about 2 frames a second.
Oh god,
that made it really easy, probably.
It
did
make
difficult.
it very easy. I don't think I ever drowned in the chemical plant.
Ooh, I still get nightmares about Chemical Plant Act 2. Oh man.
Now, Plaid, I feel like we've definitely had this conversation on stream, but please tell the listeners, was there a point that you kind of fell off the Sonic franchise and the direction it was heading in terms of the mainline games?
Yeah, so of course, after I felt like probably one of the best games that I ever owned was Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles. That is among my top 5 most favorite games of all time, Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And you could say, like, well, those are 2 different games, but they were sold differently, but they were meant to be one.
Yeah.
After I played the heck out of that game, of course, I got, kind of grew out of it, got tired of it. I mean, I know that game better than the back of my own hand. And then, of course, like the newer generation of consoles started, to come out, newer games, and of course being so impressionable, being fueled by ADD because I grew up with Sonic. I had to look at what was new, what was coming out. And what I was going to say earlier about, trading in consoles, my older sister knows about this, so when the time came to go to the...
Shout out Sega Gamer.
Sega Gamer, that's right. Still playing Sega games to this day. When the time came for us to go to the next generation, now my older sister and I, we did not like Nintendo. No. Me especially, because when N64 came out, I saw it as they dealt a huge, crushing blow to my childhood hero, Sonic the Hedgehog. Nintendo just about dealt the coup de grace to Sega. And I wasn't gonna hop on, the Nintendo, cross the line and join their sides like some kind of traitor.
Much like Sonic himself.
Right? Oh my goodness. So my older sister and I were looking at the next console that we should get. So we didn't want Nintendo 64. We were looking at either the Sony PlayStation or the Sega Saturn. What was interesting about the Saturn was that there were no Sonic games for it. Or at least, well, I mean, that's not entirely true. I mean, you had Sonic Jam, which was just Sonic 1, 2, and 3, and Knuckles. It was just a port. A brilliant port. It's a great port. And that game still costs a pretty penny on eBay. And that there was Sonic R.
And good music.
Yeah, everybody's Supersonic Racing. I still know it.
Everybody's Supersonic Racing. That was really good.
Yep. And then the Saturn version of Sonic 3D Blast. And
yeah.
I know, Sqat, you were present when I was streaming the Genesis version of 3D Blast, and did it not age well.
Absolutely.
And I've been
isometric mini golf.
Yes, Sega was trying to capture the whole isometric, pre-rendered backgrounds they had go on with Mario RPG, Donkey Kong Country, but again, the SNES
another
was
result of the DK Revolution.
Yes, but of course the SNES was more powerful than the Genesis, and it couldn't do it as well. But anyway, we're at Funko Land, and we were trying to decide. I really wanted a Sega Saturn, just because Sega. And that was really it. And Mortal Kombat Trilogy, I do remember that for whatever reason, but hey, that game was also for PlayStation. For some reason, I didn't know that. But at Funko Land, the cashier was steering us away from it. He was trying to tell us that the Sega Saturn was pretty much a doomed console, and there was nothing good for it. And me, I was so crushed. I think I was like 10 or 11, and I took it as, they wouldn't let us get one. And we got a PlayStation instead.
Yeah, didn't you hear? They just announced the Dreamcast that's coming out anytime.
$99.99. I still remember. Man, best launch day ever. But kind of abandoned Sega. Yeah, I just remember, if you think about it, I can't think of, any, real, amazing, Sega Saturn games. We're not going to trigger a bunch of people, because there are, really good games for the Saturn, but because the Saturn was so difficult to program, it was really restricted to, first-party games only. It had very poor third-party support. The PlayStation was much more popular for that reason. So we went to PlayStation and then just kind of forgot about Sonic. I mean, there were no Sonic games coming out, and what Sonic games did come out, they were pretty lackluster. I mean, Sonic R, Sonic Jam, I've already played Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles. And then Sonic 3D Blast, I mean, even the gents at Funko Land and my older sister, they knew that it wasn't a very wise investment to go with the Saturn, since Sega was going downhill very quickly, and it seemed like the future was with PlayStation in terms of that generation. I mean, yes, the N64 was very, very popular. I still think that is one of the most successful consoles to come out. Had a great launch, a lot of great launch titles.
Only View CDs.
If only. I've been saying it for a long time. If that system used CDs, full-length CDs, that console would have wrecked. It would have been perfect. But being now on the team of PlayStation, man, I can't really even think of. I think I hopped on the Crash Bandicoot bandwagon, but I remember playing that game like when it first came out.
From one mascot platformer to another.
Yeah.
Not just another one, but one that didn't win.
No, I mean Crash Bandicoot really. I mean, I know they re-released like the Crash trilogy, which is great, and it seemed like Crash was the mascot of PlayStation, of Sony, even though Crash wasn't exclusively made by Sony, it was made by Naughty Dog.
I feel like Sony really nailed that timing, though. They were able to pick up all the disillusioned Super Nintendo players and the Sega players who were jumping ship and attract both to its new system out the gate.
Well, man, it was Nintendo's fault for not joining forces with Sony. Sony was like, hey, we'll make a console with you. And Nintendo was like, nah, that's okay. And then Sony was like, all right, we'll make our own console. And boom.
Yep, that's an alternate timeline I'd like to see, but that's alas, that is not what was meant to be. And thus we got the Sony PlayStation line of systems. So,
oh my goodness. Well, I think what also kind of doomed Sonic was, the transition between 2D to 3D. Now that we have these more powerful consoles, now it's time to go 3D. Everything's got to be 3D now. And I think I mentioned in one of my streams about how with N64, it just seemed like they made so many games that just had to showcase like what you can do in these big 3D environments. To me, I found it a little off-putting. I found that, say Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, I'm trying to think of like what other games. It just seemed like they're like Donkey Kong 64. They made like these big, huge open worlds. It was huge for the time, and I felt like there was no clear direction on where to go. Like when I played these games when I was a kid, I felt like it was very easy to get lost. It's like looking at it now, I still wouldn't know how to play Mario 64. I'm sure I could figure out, but as a kid, I just felt like, what do I do? Yeah. And then. I mean, this is later when Sonic kind of had a revival. Sonic tried to go 3D, and it just didn't really work.
It stumbled out the gate, you could say.
Yeah, I mean, they tried with Sonic R, but it was just so clunky. It was a short game. There's only, 5 tracks, and that's it. I still remember Sonic Extreme, seeing very, very, very early screens for that. And it's like, this doesn't look good. And then Sega just kind of fell off the map for a minute.
Yeah, but it eventually found its footing, right, on the Dreamcast?
It did with Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic Adventure 2, I still think it's a great game. I love that game. Replaying Sonic Adventure, it's a good game. Sure, it has some faults. It's buggy at times. But I think it proved to the world that Sonic can go 3D and it can work. And I felt like they took everything they learned from Sonic Adventure 1, put that into 2, and Sonic Adventure 2, so much better. But of course, everyone loves to gripe and complain about the treasure hunting missions, like with Knuckles and Batgirl, Rouge.
Yeah. Very, very much a staple of that era. Hey, this game, it's got a great world. It's got great moveset. It's the perfect length. Oh wait, we're gonna tack on a fetch quest. You got to go just collect a bunch of stuff now.
There's something for everybody. You don't want to go fast? That's fine. Go find these 3 random things.
Yeah. By far, my biggest issue with the GameCube, PS2 era. Now, Plaid, it's funny. The point that you were basically falling off of Sonic was when I was first introduced to the series. I mean, like I said, Sonic and the Secret Rings was definitely an odd title to begin with, but I mean, at the time, Sonic 06 was coming out, and then Sonic Unleashed came a little later, Sonic and the Black Knight. I mean, there's just Sonic games pouring out of every system, and a very unique situation at this point in time was that you'd get a game on one console, and then you get that same game on another console, but they weren't really the same game because these consoles had a huge difference in performance. So you get Sonic Unleashed on the Wii and PS2, but it was not the same game as Sonic Unleashed on the Xbox 360, PS3. And then alternatively, you go to Sonic Generations that couldn't even run on the Wii, so they just didn't include it. Yeah. But they did include Sonic Colors on the Wii and not on anything else at the time, because that was specifically designed for the Wii. So you really had this fractured franchise just showing up in all these different places on all these different systems. And I think that was really to its benefit in terms of introduction to other players, because you didn't need to basically live on PlayStation or live on Xbox or live on Nintendo Wii in order to experience the series. You can kind of get a sampling no matter where you were, but at the same time, you have all these different subgroups of fans within each of these camps, and I think that's kind of the state of the Sonic fandom now. Is it's just so divided among all these weird lines and eras and systems that they don't really all want the same thing anymore.
Yeah, I feel like the Sonic fandom can be divided into I don't want to say older, but older, crustier,
classic and modern. I think are
yes, the ones who grew up with 2D and cling to that as tight as they can, which is me. I love my 2D Sonic above all, and then you have the more modern Sonic fans who love the 3D era Sonic games and who are still very excited about those games. And despite
that's me, I'm raising my hand.
and you know what? That's okay.
we fall into two camps, Plaid. Now, just so I can relate to you a little bit, there did come a point after Sonic Generations, even though I didn't play that title, that was still very much in the line of the systems of the late 2000s. They started just doing stuff after that, like Sonic Boom and Sonic Lost World, just very different terms of gameplay and styling. And I felt like it was kind of going in a direction that I wasn't really familiar with anymore, so I kind of fell off as well. And if that isn't the mark of a Sonic fan, I don't know what is.
You fell off at the right time. I've never played Sonic Boom. I've just heard stories about it. I've heard none of them not good stories either. And then like I don't know if that cartoon is still going. I heard that wasn't good either.
Now, Plaid, you say all this, but I'm sure out there's some kid who says that's the best Sonic ever was. That was prime Sonic time.
Well, is it no better, no worse than like the two different Sonic the Hedgehog cartoons, the 90s? You have the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, and you have the Sonic Sat AM. It's like looking at both those now, it's like those were kind of weird.
You need to go. I don't know if we. I think because of copyright reasons we can't do it, but we need to go listen to like the Sonic X cartoon theme song, where it was like,
"Gotta go fast, gotta go fast."
Gotta go.
Was there a different one?
No. They're in Sonic X. They're like a band of freedom fighters, and it's like very 90s.
It's a show that came out before Sonic X.
But they're also musicians, though. That's the thing, is they're also a band.
I thought it was Sonic Underground.
Oh, that's Sonic Underground. That's right. Yeah. Fact check this. I was talking about Sonic Underground the whole time. Edit that in.
Yeah, Sonic X is the one that's more anime looking. That looks more like the animation of Sonic Adventure 2. Yeah.
But it is like notorious for like the whole story is like in the theme song. It's like they had to find their mom, and then they didn't find their mom.
No,
the whole time, and it ended after like one season.
What a cliffhanger!
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Underground.
Yeah,
is that the one where like one of the hedgehogs is like green or something?
Uh huh.
Yeah, that's Underground. Oh.
Now, Rat, I don't know how plugged in you were at this time. Were you even really playing Sonic games throughout the 2000s, 2010s?
No. I really wasn't I wasn't a Sonic guy. I mean, like I said, that friend I played with, I played 1, I played 2. I remember he loved Knuckles, and I always like the concept of them, and I remember that for some reason I very vivid in my mind that I remember like some documentary, wildlife documentary, they talked about echidnas, and my friend,
I could never pronounce that when I was a kid.
He kept saying and cheetah and cheetah and cheetah. I'm like, it's not an echidna, it's an echidna.
I said agenda.
It's Knuckles the agenda.
That was what I said when I was a kid. When I was in 3rd grade.
You loved Kool-Aid too, didn't you?
Maybe.
I think I can still see the remnants of the red ring around his mouth to this day.
Yeah.
No, we had Capri Sun.
Now, for better or worse, I feel like as best as Sega can, they do a lot wrong, but they do some things right. I feel like they're really trying to bridge those divides now and kind of throw a bone to each of the Sonic sects with different games, with different pieces of media. They have cartoons, they have movies. The Sonic movies 1 and 2, I think, were pretty well done and honestly appealed to just about any fan within the fan base. It's not too niche in that sense. Very broad.
Yeah.
And even with games, Plaidman, such as Sonic Mania, harkening back to that old style.
I'm still holding out for Sonic Mania 2. Oh, Christian Whitehead, our Lord and Savior of Sonic, please come back to us. Please have a second coming in the form of Sonic Mania 2.
Oh, no.
Oh my goodness, man! Like, I remember when they were showing screens like for Sonic Mania, and then I discovered that it was going to be for the next generation of consoles, like the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and I think Steam. And I was like, son of a... It's like, what do you mean? Like, I can't play Sonic Mania on my 360? I mean, is Sonic Mania that graphically demanding? Like, the 360 can't handle it?
I think it's the first non-indie game I've seen in close to a decade that was under a gig to download.
Yes. I mean, I got a PS4 specifically for Sonic Mania. I mean, I really didn't want any other game. It's like, I wanted Sonic Mania. I mean, yes, the PlayStation 4 is a really cool console. It's one of my favorites now, but still, it's like...
Did you hear that, Sony? It's a system seller to at least one person. Put a little pressure on Sega. Let's get Sonic Mania 2.
Yes!
There's got to be one other Plaidman out there who will buy it.
I'll get
just for that.
If Sonic Mania 2 comes out for PlayStation 5, I will get a PlayStation 5 just for that game.
Yo, Sony!
With all the crashes Sonic Origins was facing on PS4, it might only be able to run on PS5 for all we know.
Oh my goodness, Sonic Origins.
Like I said, Sega does some right, but they do a lot wrong.
I think they were trying to relive nostalgia with Origins, but did they botch that game?
They're obviously going in a very different direction with this new game, Sonic Frontiers. I don't really know what to expect at this time of recording. We don't really know much about it aside from what they've shown in the trailers. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think if they can make traveling the open world fun, if they can make running around at the speed of sound actually a good time, it could have kind of that appeal that Spider-Man for PS4 has, where it's just fun to move around, fun to play around in the world, even if the levels are kind of open-ended and objective-based.
I watched another one of it was like on YouTube. It was like titled like the final preview, and they said that like the reviewer was saying we've ironed out more of the bugs, had 6 hours to play it. And I remember watching like the first preview of it, and I'm not really a fan of like vast open worlds anymore. Like, open worlds are fun if you have a lot to do, if there's a lot of scenery, a lot to look at, but my problem with open world games like that is like it almost becomes like a chore. You have to plan out how you're going to play your game. It's like, well, how am I going to play this game today? Am I going to do a bunch of side quests? Am I going to level up crafting? Or am I just going to progress the story? Am I going to work on my skill trees? Am I going to work on leveling up weapons, obtaining ultimate weapons? And then for me, that's how games kind of become a chore. And I worry that that's how... Well, not necessarily how Sonic Frontiers will be, but it'll have like a lot to do, almost too much, but that's just me. That's like my view on open world games. But even so, like I think Sqat, you were watching my stream where I was...
I think I sent you the trailer when it dropped. The IGN first back in the summer where it was just Sonic walking around like silently and going over slopes very slowly and... punching things really boringly.
I don't think it was slow. I think the problem was like it just seemed like too open. It's like there wasn't like a whole lot to do. But not only that, but there wasn't a whole lot of enemies. It's like, okay, I have these big, vast, sprawling plains just run around. Like, yeah, I can run around and go fast, but what's the point if there's nothing to do?
Yeah.
And it just had a very... like, as everyone's been saying, like, Breath of the Wild, Shadow of Colossus feel. And I think that's another way in that I've kind of turned my back towards Sonic. I feel like Sega has become obsessed with these, like, very faux dramatic, melodramatic, like, plots in Sonic games, where, like, Sonic is living amongst humans, well, wait, Plaidman, there's Dr. Robotnik. But when I think of like the classic era of like Sonic games, like the 2D ones where there's like Robotnik, I always thought of it something like akin to like Looney Tunes, like with Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Elmer Fudd. I mean, you got anthropomorphic animals with humans like Elmer Fudd, and they didn't try to make it realistic. It was a cartoon. It didn't have to make sense. But now Sega's trying to take these more advanced plots and drama and make them like believable, and it comes across as like really cringy and really weird, like a human female princess kissing a dead hedgehog.
I was gonna say, I think we can all agree that style of storytelling peaked with the Elise romance arc.
Oh my goodness, and how they showed her the credits at Sonic Generations. It's like, really, Sega, you want us to remember that? But
it's better than them denying it ever happened.
But I'm getting off topic. But so anyway, like the final preview of like Sonic Frontiers, it does look a little more promising. I will say that. Okay. I am a fan of skill trees. Skill trees are fun. It gives you something to do. Like the idea of being able like to level up Sonic. I mean, they kind of dabbled with that in Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. And I can't speak of the other Sonic games, like the other 3D Sonic games, because I didn't really play them. But like how there was like the light speed shoes, the crystal ring, the ancient light that you can get in Sonic Adventure 1. Even in Sonic 06, they did try with all the different upgrades that you could outright buy. Yeah, but it sounds like there's an actual leveling system in Frontiers, and it does look cool. And they did show more areas besides that vast green plains looking area that was in the first video. So yeah, it does look a little more promising, but, and this is just me talking, I'm just more cautious with the 3D Sonic games.
I think you have every right to be.
And, I think that kind of leads into me. I have some questions for you, Plaidman, just kind of about this. Is as we sit here on the eve of Sonic Frontiers, of the future of Sonic, things, where is it going to go? I just have some questions and also some advice, first of all. As someone who's new to Sonic, who might be giving Frontiers a try, I just need you to be, help me out. I can't do this alone, even though I am strong. I need something more than me, someone to push me to victory, okay? Let's see what we can do together, me and you. What do you think about that?
Love it. Sounds awesome.
And the thing about an open world game, honestly, come on, run away. You don't have to stay. We're nearly out of time, but you're doing fine. So you just got to stay on track. You know what I'm saying, Plaidman? Feel the pace.
This is motivational, man. Keep going.
Here's my other question. Can you feel life moving through your mind? It looks like it came back for more. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you feel time slipping down your spine? I mean, you try to ignore, but you can hardly swallow your fears and pain. Does that kind of is that how you feel about Sonic?
All right, you got me.
I think Plaid's just chosen to live and learn.
I think when it comes to Sonic Frontiers, all you gotta do is roll around at the speed of sound. Plaid's got places to go. He's got to follow his rainbow. He can't stick around. He has to keep moving on. Guess what lies ahead? Only one way to find out. Must keep moving on ahead.
No fair. You have the lyrics pulled up. You're reading them off. I thought you were this like articulate wordsmith, and that's just the lyrics to live and learn. But well done, sir. Well done.
Bravo.
Yes, bravo.
True Sonic fans know that was Fist Bump, Escape from the City, Live and Learn, and Supersonic Racing.
And this might be our final point. I think, despite all the ups and downs and all arounds that the series has gone through, the one constant has been great music. So, if anything, we can hope for more killer tracks to listen to on Spotify from the Sonic series, despite how these new games turn out.
Oh man, I think one of my most crowning moments was purchasing the entire Sonic Adventure 2 soundtrack off eBay. Ooh, because you couldn't get that here in the States. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man, it came with these detailed art books that came with them. I still love the soundtrack to Sonic Adventure 2. Heck yes.
Yeah.
Little did you know YouTube was going to be a thing in about 2 years from then.
No.
Okay, so everybody, maybe we could all maybe we could all finish off with just our favorite Sonic memory or something that we love. Something brief about what we loved. I'll start it off. I do have a Sonic toy somewhere. Even though I wasn't a Sonic boy, I remember I saw it one time and I was like, yo, that looks sick. I gotta get it. So maybe I'll try to find it. I also have a Donkey Kong action figure somewhere, Sqat. I'll try and find it. So there we go.
We'll put it up on the Instagram.
I don't know if I'll be able to find it that quick.
At some point down the line. I still have to put my controller collection up at some point.
Yeah.
Likewise, I think my favorite Sonic memory came from a game, Sonic Unleashed. That's my favorite. I know it's naysayers. I think that it really hit hard in a lot of ways, and none more so than the finale with Super Sonic was just the definition of epic to a young Sqat playing that and controlling such a powerful being in the Wii version where you don't fight a shield.
Yep.
That's right.
How about you, Plaid?
All right, what about you, Plaid?
If you had to summarize it into one.
The Sonic plushie that my mom got me, I think when I was 7 years old. I saw it, I had to have it, but this was after I experienced Sonic 1. Because at that time, didn't have a Sega Genesis, not yet. But I had experienced enough of Sonic the Hedgehog, and I knew this was the greatest thing ever. And then going into that little toy shop, and then seeing that Sonic plushie, oh man, my little boy mind was just, I had to have it. And my mom got it for me, and I still have it. Oh yes.
Yeah.
And it went with you everywhere, to the playground, to lunch.
Yeah.
All over.
I kept it at home, but
you gotta keep it safe.
Yes, gotta keep it safe. Can't let those other kids touch it.
Yeah.
Oh man, the Nintendo fanboys.
If you want to see it, you can actually go to his clips, twitch.tv/Plaidman86. There's a clip where he's holding it and talking about it a little bit.
Oh, yes, thank you, Rat.
By yours truly.
Yeah, maybe we'll link that in the description, and we'll play a little snippet of it here.
Oh, goodness.
All right, well, Plaid, I see the universe. It's forming itself back together around us. It seems like we've appeased our Sega quota for now. We'll be sure to not let this happen again and reference Sega constantly here going forward, or else you can expect a follow-up conversation down the road.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it'll probably be about Sonic Frontiers. I mean, it has to be good, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
There's been nowhere to go but up. So clearly they're just going to keep shooting for the stars.
Nowhere to go but fast.
Gotta go fast. Plaid, thanks so much for joining us again on Scrollies. I'm glad I could accompany you this time. And in fact, I should probably, as the void's closing up, I'm going to shout a warning because I can see your first appearance and it looks like you're about to talk about Sonic, but as we know, that didn't happen, so I want to prevent a paradox.
Ratnado, you can't do that. The future will be changed. You'll create a time paradox.
Okay, I think you got the message. You're talking about books or something now. Okay. And, all right, the universe is healed. It just closed up. We're good to go. So, I've been Sqat Cobbler of the Scrollies podcast. I am joined, as always, by my co-host,
Dr. Ratnadic, a.k.a. Team Ratnado.
Sorry. I have been Sqatnik the Hedgehog. And likewise, we have our very special guest. Where can the people find you?
You all can find me on my Twitch channel, Plaidman86.twitch.tv.
There you go. All right. Well, everyone, thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Despite this being a episode that ends in 0, we are not doing a composer episode this week. But next week, you can expect the next iteration of that. We will be talking about our number 3s. So look forward to seeing you there, and take it easy.